Sometimes it feels we're inside out, and I've made some poor decisions lately. It's coming in air quotes, infused with the scent of potpourri, films we commit to memory. Crossing the felt ropes, watching from home on my TV, looking at all my eyes can see. They tell me I view obsessively.
Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show each episode. You can find more of our work at obsessiveviewer.com and more podcasts presented by Obsessive Viewer at obsessiveviewer.com/podcasts. And for a full-length version of our theme song, check out As Good As It Gets. Their song is a little mad sometimes, the theme from the Obsessive Viewer podcast. That's at, I don't have their link, oh my god, anywhere you stream music, basically. So, yeah. And if you'd like to support what we do here, you can become a patron at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer, where at the $1 a month level, you get access to tons of B-roll episodes and just us shooting the breeze, talking about movies that we love and have seen in the theater, and disputes with apartment complexes and very poor Karening with customer service people. Yeah, anyway. And at the $2 a month level, you get that plus TV review and reaction episodes, book reactions, and immediate reaction episodes, reviews of movies and everything. $5, you get all of that plus movie commentary tracks. And at $10, you get everything I just said, plus early access to podcast episodes and previously unreleased content. Again, that's at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. I'm your host, the aforementioned, or I guess, yeah, did I already say that? No, I didn't. I'm your host, Matt Hurt, and with me today is my partner in podcasting crime, Tiny.
I admit to nothing. We commit no crimes.
Oh, good. Nice.
Podcast or otherwise.
Yes. Okay. Well, the body is in the trunk. So I was going to bring this up on Patreon, actually, but have you heard about this, like, escaped convict thing?
No, I saw you shared the story on the social medias, but I didn't have a chance to read it yet. Yeah.
It's kind of wild. And like one of the first, actually your dad commented this, but one of the first comments I saw about it was like, well, it looks like Netflix has their next documentary lined up. 'Cause it's a wild story. It's like this guy who was being held at a jail. He was incarcerated for like stabbing someone, I think, in like 2015 and a bunch of other things. He was either serving, or I think he was facing, I don't know. So 2015 he was incarcerated, and then in 2020 he confessed to a murder, I think. And so he was facing those charges, that he was facing 75 years in prison for that. And then also in 2020 he he was caught trying to escape or something, like he had a shiv or something. I don't know. Anyway, this is not a true crime podcast. But anyway, he was at a jail in Florida or Alabama that awaiting, like, maybe not trial, but maybe arraignment or something for those charges. I don't know what the deal was. But anyway, and then assistant director of corrections for that jail signed him out to take him for a mental health evaluation, and they never arrived. And her patrol car was found in a shopping center parking lot, abandoned, and there's a manhunt for them now. And the thing is that, like, as more information comes out, it is more and more clear that she assisted him, and like this was like she helped him escape.
Yeah.
It's wild, man. Like she had put in her retirement paperwork. She had just sold her house like a couple of weeks before this. her house was valued at like $205,000, and she sold it for $95,000.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And like she bought a car that she stashed at the shopping center parking lot so that they could trade it and everything, and now there's a manhunt for them. And like at first they were saying that they didn't know if she was being coerced or if she was a hostage or whatever, but then now as the more information comes out, they said that she and the inmate had some sort of special relationship, and then now it's probably like a romantic relationship or whatever. Like she had given him like special treatment, and he was getting like extra food and all of these amenities and stuff, and like it's pretty wild. Yeah,
I was gonna say, it sounds like love to me.
it sure does. So that's interesting.
Jeez.
Yeah, but yeah, so we'll cover that when it hits Netflix, like a documentary about it.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, how are you doing, Tiny? How's it going?
I'm good. I am
Good.
bueno.
Nice. Anything new with you?
No, just getting in spring gear.
Nice.
Getting the yard all taken care of and set up and everything. Yeah.
Nice. Are you excited for the race?
Very, very
Yes.
much so. Yes.
For those of us who don't live on the west side of Indianapolis anymore, or ever, the race of the Indy 500.
Yeah.
So
they had the
that's
first
exciting.
they had the first open test of the season on what was that, like 2 weeks ago? That's like 2 weeks ago tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and ironically, they resurfaced like one of the pit exit lanes or entrance lanes. I think it was both of those, and they put some kind of like sealer on it, and like the cars didn't react well to it, so there were like 4 wrecks.
Oh, geez.
Including Elio Castroneves.
Oh no.
Who, yeah, and he was in the car, the very exact same car that he won his 4th Indy 500 in last year.
Jeez.
Yeah, the video was pretty heartbreaking because they pulled him out of the car, and he was like, he had his head in his hands, and he was like crying.
Oh, wow.
And they interviewed him afterwards because the team that he's on is a very small kind of an upstart team, and so they don't get new cars every year. They have to kind of build, work with what they had last year. And he was like, that's the car. That's my baby. Like I won my 4th Indy 500 in that thing. He's like, when I retire, I want to have that car and like keep it in my collection and sleep with it sometimes and stuff like that. So it was actually kind of a bit of a, testing isn't necessarily all that interesting, but it was a bit dramatic for that reason. So
yeah. Is it?
Anyways, I don't want to bog down the podcast with all that talk, but yeah, it was. We were watching it on Peacock. It was really fun.
Nice. Peacock is a streaming service which is going to have, in a couple of weeks, the new Firestarter movie.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah, and on Tower Junkies, like we came to the decision on Tower Junkies, like, oh, we'll do Carrie, and then the De Palma Carrie movie, the TV miniseries Carrie thing, and then the 2013 Carrie movie, and then we'll do Firestarter. So look forward to us covering the Blumhouse Firestarter next year, probably. But yeah,
right.
Yeah, we'll see. But are you excited for Firestarter at all?
I don't know. It doesn't look bad by any means, but I'm not overly excited for it, unfortunately.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. As always, it is a big year for Stephen King and everything. In terms of movies, since this is Obsessive Viewer, like Firestarter is coming out this month, and then in September, the new Salem's Lot movie is coming out, so that's exciting. Yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, but today on the podcast, Tiny, we are doing an extended potpourri. Are you excited?
I am.
Nice. Me too, despite yawning into the microphone. For those first-time listeners, we don't usually start the podcast with talking about true crime and auto racing, but potpourri is the section of the podcast where We basically kind of run down some stuff we've watched lately, kind of a loose format, kind of, the potpourri section on a normal episode is us basically ending the episode with a brief talk about some stuff we've watched. So extended potpourri, occasionally we do full-length episodes where we just do potpourri, where we go back and forth talking about movies or TV shows that we've watched recently and everything. So it's a good way to kind of clear the cache of titles that we've watched lately in between recording episodes of the podcast. So we both have like four titles each, I think, that we are going to be talking about separately and together. But Tiny, I kind of have a big title to talk about first. Do you mind if I run point and talk about the first one on my list, and then we can go to you?
Go for it, man.
Nice. Okay, thank God. Okay. So 2 nights ago, Monday, I had the pleasure of going to a press screening of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It was this past Monday. I'm going to have a review on the website probably by the time this episode is on the main feed, hopefully. But so Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This was a movie that I was very much looking forward to as a fan of the MCU and as a fan of like some of the stuff that they've done on Disney Plus recently. Like I haven't watched Hawkeye or Moon Knight or I think there's one other that I haven't watched, but I have watched like WandaVision and Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Tiny, have you watched any of the Disney Plus shows?
I've watched all of them. I've watched nice. Hawkeye, Loki, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Yeah, I watched all of them. Oh, nice.
And WandaVision?
And WandaVision, yeah.
Nice. How would you, just off the cuff, how would you rank them? Like, what's your favorite? And
I'd say probably WandaVision's my favorite.
Nice.
With Hawkeye in a close second.
Nice.
I feel like Loki was really good too, but I feel like the one that, not that it was bad, but the Falcon and the Winter Soldier was a little, I don't know if I want to say uninspired, or especially considering, I don't know, the weight of Captain America and what that entails, passing the mantle on to a new person. I thought that was that should have had a little bit more substance to it, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't bad by any stretch. And I think all of them have been pretty fun and pretty satisfying.
Nice. I agree. Like I said, I haven't watched Hawkeye. Oh, What If is the other one.
Oh, I haven't watched that. I have not watched that.
Me neither. And Moon Knight. Oh my God, I am so freaking sorry. Moon Knight is the other one that I haven't watched. It just finished up this week. Actually, tonight was the season finale. But Loki and WandaVision were two shows that I was very much into on that. I actually did Patreon recordings for each episode of those shows, as well as Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I'm going to do that for Hawkeye and Moon Knight at some point. But Loki and WandaVision were two that I was very interested in, because WandaVision was super weird, played with a lot of like serious themes, like Wanda's grief and like everything in the aftermath of Endgame. And Loki was amazing to me because it felt like it blew the doors wide open for the MCU going forward, because it has that kind of time travel, like alternate universe, multiverse kind of thing that was a guiding force throughout the entire run of that show. And even kind of like the end of Loki was what I felt was like a big harbinger for what's to come in the MCU. And I was very excited about that. And so having said that, like going into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, I was extremely excited because it's in the title, Multiverse of Madness. Like this movie, like I felt like, oh, this is going to be like the movie that really, really sets the stage for the MCU going forward, because we had Endgame just completely end the Infinity Saga. And so now we have what I'm thinking is like the Multiverse Saga, which is insane to me, and it sounds just so interesting and cool. And that reminds me, did you watch Eternals, the movie? Did you go to the
We saw that in the theater.
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember much of anything about it. Like, I just don't, like, it doesn't really rank with me.
I don't think we really talked about it on the podcast either.
I don't think so either. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just kind of, I don't know. So like that's neither here nor there. So Multiverse of Madness. First of all, I will say I really, really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a lot of fun, and it did some really interesting things. And what's chief among them in terms of what's interesting, and I'm curious what you'll think about this, Tiny, because I know how you feel about this particular filmmaker, but Sam Raimi directed Multiverse of Madness. And like after Spider-Man No Way Home, which, you know, brought back some characters from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, after that, like I went and I rewatched Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, and like I just found like I love those first two movies. In particular, Spider-Man 2 I think is just amazing. Like I think that is an incredible movie. Spider-Man 3 obviously has a multitude of problems and in my opinion is not good. But having those movies fresh in my mind and then going into Sam Raimi directing Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, I had this overwhelming feeling that I was like, I really missed Sam Raimi doing a comic book action movie, like a comic book blockbuster movie. Like there's a certain like style that he has with like one of the first big set pieces is this this sequence where Doctor Strange is battling something in New York, and like just the way the camera moves and the way that it has like this fluid motion through like the city streets and the way it passes through like crowds of people, and as they're reacting to what's happening, like it is very much in the same vein as the way that Raimi shot Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3. It has that like appeal of like being somewhat of like a comic book panel sort of thing. Like the shots of bystanders just seeing it in like a close-up of their faces and like screaming or shocked and everything. Like experiencing that for the first time in like in a well done movie since 2004, or in any movie like that Sam Raimi did for comic book movies in 2007, I think is Spider-Man 3. Like experiencing that in 2022 was just really interesting, and it just made me feel like not necessarily nostalgic, but it just made me feel like I want more of this. Like I just want more of this feeling. So that was just really cool and interesting. And then the movie goes into some very interesting places, and it does a thing that like I was afraid that this was going to be just an Easter egg love fest or like a showcase of like, I was worried that this was going to be like, oh, Marvel being like, these are all of the Marvel characters we have rights to, so we're going to throw everything at them. Like, we're going to show like all this multiverse, all of these different universes and everything just for fan service. And I'm so glad that wasn't the case. Like, the Easter eggs that are in the movie are like, there's a certain amount of restraint that that Marvel Studios has had in this, and it's more about just creating this idea of the multiverse in the context of the MCU. And I think that that's really smart because they're taking these stepping stone things, like they're stepping toward it kind of not subtly but slowly building up toward like what I'm thinking is going to be a multiverse like storyline, because we had like WandaVision has like this not alternate reality but this created reality, and like it's not a secret that Wanda is in the movie, so she's a pretty big part of the movie, and then Loki has like the multiverse in a different way. And then now we have Doctor Strange kind of traversing the multiverse. So like, I feel like it's just very slowly building toward like the big multiverse kind of storyline in the MCU. And I think that's just really cool. And it's done really well. I really like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And then I'll stop rambling. But the final thing is that as the movie progresses, it gets more and more into kind of somewhat horrific kind of things, and there are several moments where I'm like, this is just so freaking cool, like in terms of some things that happen, and like the darkness of that is like at the beginning of the movie I was like, oh yeah, this is what Sam Raimi is like when he does a comic book movie. And then throughout the course of the movie I thought, oh yeah, Sam Raimi does all kinds of things in movies. like he does, I was like, oh yeah, he made The Evil Dead. He made Drag Me to Hell. He did Drag Me to Hell. Yeah. He's done like horror, and like he's implementing that into this to an extent. So it was really cool. I really, really enjoyed it.
That's awesome. I kind of forgot / didn't know that Sam Raimi directed it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he's not necessarily my cup of tea.
Right.
I never got into the Evil Dead movies,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't care as much for the Spider-Man trilogy he did. I haven't watched it in so long, though. I feel like I need to give it another shot. But
Yeah.
I'm glad you liked it. I hope the MCU can transition into, something new that's. I think it's going to be borderline impossible for them to capture the magic of the Infinity series, if you will, or that
Oh yeah.
phase or storyline. I think that's borderline impossible, but just to have something similar or something good, I think they can pull it off. But it sounds like you maybe have found their thread that they're going for, and I hope that's true. I hope they find a way to do that.
I hope so as well. And I'm really curious what you'll think of this movie, to be honest. Like I'm very curious. And I'm very curious what Mike will think of it. He's seeing it this week. I asked him, I was like, hey, if you want to, talk about it on the podcast, because I'm very, very eager to see what he thinks of it.
Cool.
Yeah. So maybe we'll have an episode with him. We'll see. But I was very impressed. Looking forward to what's to come with the MCU.
Sweet.
Yeah. So that's my first potpourri. And Tiny, what are you going to bring to the proverbial table?
Well, the first major title I wanted to talk, or the major thing I wanted to talk to was a TV series that I recently caught up on. It's HBO's Euphoria.
Nice.
And the show really made me think a lot. It came out in 2019, and then I think they took some time off for COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And then so the second season I think just finished. I think it just finished in the last month or so, maybe.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm trying to look at IMDb. Not used to looking at IMDb on a desktop.
Oh yeah. Well, I know that they also had they had a first season, and then they had like a COVID, maybe not COVID special, but like they had a special episode that was like two characters talking, that they shot during COVID, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I knew about that, but
oh yeah, it's Zendaya and someone else talking in a diner. Did you see that?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think so. They probably put it in the second season.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds familiar. Yeah. But have you watched any of the show, Matt?
I haven't, and
Okay.
yeah, the final episode of season 2 was February 27th of this year. I
Okay,
haven't,
I
but
thought it was
yeah, but it's very high on my list.
okay.
Yeah.
I kind of I don't want to say avoided it, but it didn't pique my interest because at its base it is a teen drama.
Okay.
So I was like, I don't know how I'm going to relate to that, Gen Z teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can really relate to that, but I had heard good things about it, and I feel like it's been embraced by that generation, and they tout it loudly. So I was like, yeah, I'm not sure if that's really going to be for me, but I heard other people start saying how good it was, and I just decided to go ahead and give it a shot, give it a try, and see what it was like. And I'm very blown away by it.
Nice.
To call it a teen drama is a huge understatement. It is so much more than that. It manages to make a statement and examine modern social issues without preaching in the slightest.
Nice.
It weaves these messages into the story entirely organically, and that's really hard to do. But they pulled it off incredibly well on the show. And it has me thinking a lot about kind of generation gaps and how generations relate to each other. And I have always been resistant to the idea of older generations always being like, oh, kids these days, when I was a kid, we didn't do this shit. And when we were coming of age, it was all these damn millennials are so horrible and entitled and all this shit. They're not having kids and they're just giving us so much shit. And I was always like, you know what? I think that's bullshit. And I feel like every older generation falls into that trope. And that's what leads me to believe it has nothing to do with the actual characteristics of the generations. It has to do with you're just getting older and you're getting more curmudgeonly or crotchety or whatever phrase you want to use. But the reason why the show really made me examine that or kind of reinforced that for me is that going into the show, I was worried about being able to find any kind of connection to it or, being feeling like an outsider, feeling old. Really.
Right.
But it really made me think. I related to it not because I've had similar experiences, because so many of these kids in the show just have kind of horrible lives, or they go through horrible things, really intense trauma that I've never experienced. But what I've found so fascinating is I think back to how I was and all my friends and peers were in high school. And I think back to if we had all had phones in our pockets and social media 24/7, 365, and the same political divide that we have now, all of the cultural aspects and changes that are different between when we were teenagers and what teenagers go through now. I tried to examine it and think of it through that filter. And, I think if we had all these things when we were teenagers, we might be just as fucked up and doing just as crazy shit as doing in this show.
Yeah.
Because Zendaya's character, she's the main character, and she is a bad drug addict. I mean, she's has a very serious drug addiction. And there's other some of their other characters, like they've lost parents. They're kind of raising themselves. Their parents are just frankly terrible people and aren't raising them really. And again, I that's hard enough and dramatic enough to grow up that way, but then you factor in all these other, just the general culture of being a teenager. It's that makes it hard. And then you throw in social media, you throw in political ideas and political divides and all those things and just cultural changes. And I understand why these kids act the way they do. I'll put it that way. And I was so shocked that I reacted that way, because I was so prepared to just be like, man, I can't relate to this. I'm not saying I'm not saying I was predisposed to not like the show or think it was a bad show or any of those things, but I thought there was going to be such a disconnect, and it's actually quite the opposite.
Nice.
And I'm just really blown away by it. I think, especially the whole technology part, the whole technology aspect, because it plays a part in every single episode. They're constantly. I mean, it's not heavy handed. It's like these kids are just constantly texting, and they're constantly looking at social media, which we all do, you know. But again, we didn't when we were 14. We didn't have that. And
right.
Yeah, it's really made me. I really enjoyed and consumed the show through that filter, and it's made it really incredible just to experience it that way. But
nice.
In addition to that, it is a damn good show.
Yeah.
The acting and characters are just off the charts good. My only reference for Zendaya as an actor have been like Dune, Spider-Man, and The Greatest Showman.
Oh, she was in that.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it, but I have it. I need to watch that.
It's a decent movie. I didn't love it. There's some good music, but it was okay. She's barely in Dune, and so really it's just Spider-Man. Her playing MJ in Spider-Man is my really only real reference for Zendaya. And I by no stretch did I think she was a bad actor, but I wasn't. I never was impressed by her. I was never like, oh, Zendaya's great, or I was like, yeah, she's fine.
Yeah. You judging from what you've seen her in, you didn't see what her full potential was, or you didn't see her at her full potential. Right.
And full potential is a great term for what she does on this show. She is fucking great. I'm really impressed with her as an actor. She's so damn good in this show. Nice. And there's also some other great actors in there. Most notably is Hunter Schafer. Had never acted before.
Oh wow.
She was a trans activist several years ago when all those damn what are they the bathroom issues were coming up politically. She was an activist, and I want to say one of the Carolinas is where she's from. She became kind of famous basically for going to the state house and fighting against the state law where, some ridiculous law about you have to use the bathroom at your birth or some shit like that. Yeah. One of those ridiculous things that was happening 7 or 8 years ago, whenever the hell that was. And then she became a model, and her agent was like, you should go try out for this show. And she did. And she is, I am, again, just amazed at how good she is, because you would have no clue that she's not a professionally trained actor. She is damn good on the show.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's interesting how I mentioned earlier that they're not heavy handed and they're not obvious with their messaging or anything like that. But she is a trans person in real life, and her character is trans. But the whole first episode, I had no clue.
Oh, wow.
She's pretty feminine, and I think I haven't really researched how she identifies or anything. I don't know what her pronouns are and stuff like that. But at the end of the last episode, there's a scene where she's just in her underwear, and it's like, oh, she's trans. I had no clue. I didn't even know. But it never comes up in the show. Like no one has ever. It just almost never comes up. Like no one's ever asking her the question. So how did you decide to transition, or what made you feel like you were actually a woman, or what? I don't know. That stuff never happens in the show, and it's like even the adults and the teachers and all. It is 100% not an issue that she is a trans person.
That's really refreshing and interesting.
Yeah, and it's organic. It doesn't feel forced. Yeah. It's not political. It's just it just is.
That I don't want to get on a soapbox or anything, but that's something like I've talked about a lot on or at some point in the podcast over the years and everything, is that like I support, you know, LGBTQ, all like trans rights, all of that. Like I'm in support of that. Whatever makes you happy, you know, as long as it's legal and it's not, you know, harming other people, do your thing. Like it's all good.
Right.
But the thing that I struggle with, the thing that I struggle with as a white cis male, with podcasts, is that I kind of feel like, as someone who loves media and loves like dissecting movies and TV and everything and books and everything, the thing that I struggle with is like with that feeling of being supportive of like of people whose lifestyles aren't the same as mine or anything. When I see those lifestyles and those experiences depicted in a movie or TV show, I'm thrilled because it's a window into something I don't understand, or I do not have the life experience or capability to understand what it's like to be like people who have different experiences like that. But that, like what you kind of talked about, is how sometimes that can be very kind of aggressively political or too. There's a line there where I kind of feel, and I'm just very, very, I'm walking on coals here. I feel like certain pieces of art that depict like things that are not, you know, everything else that's in media and everything, sometimes there are certain things that get like propped up and celebrated because it's just very much like it's about that. And like, more power to him. That's amazing. That's great. But also oftentimes for me, it doesn't really gel with the art as someone who's watching it. It feels more like a self-congratulatory kind of thing. And like, I want to like see the experience. I want to like know what it's like and everything. I don't want it to be like, oh, hey, this person identifies this way and like, oh, it's great and everything. I want to like feel like, I don't know if I'm explaining that right. But when I see things like even something like gay marriage in a movie or show, that is just like, this is just how, like, hey, yeah, like a character saying like, yeah, my mom's think this or my dad's think this and everything, and that doesn't play a part in it or anything, like that normalization of that is so refreshing to me, and is like, that's exactly what I want to see. And like, I want to see more things like that. And I think that's why I'm kind of struggling here, because I kind of feel like I'm walking on eggshells, because I don't want it to sound like I'm thinking like, oh, just don't be on our faces about it, because obviously I'm not that person at all. But like, I think that
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's they're sort of doing the writers or actors, filmmakers, whoever, are sort of doing a disservice to the cause by making it so inorganic. And it's like,
oh, you're talking about in those situations that I stumbled through talking about. Okay.
Yes, yeah. Right. Where someone's like, oh, you're gay in a show. And it's like, people don't do that. Like, that's not how that happens in conversation anymore. Like maybe 30 years ago, but not anymore. Yeah. And that's, I know exactly what you mean. They're making it it's a bit circus-like, or that maybe that's not the right way to say it, but it's sort of like they're putting them on display, and saying like, "Look, we're being progressive. We have a gay character, or we have a trans character."
Yes, I think that is what the line is for me. Is that there are certain things. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head, but there are tons of examples of this out there, but. There are certain like shows and movies that will come out to kind of capitalize on the political divide of that, or the political statement of that. And it's more like, this is the problem that I have, is that like, I know that like Roger Ebert said that movies are empathy machines. Like movies are an engine for empathy so that you can experience other people's lives and what they go through and everything. And to have like, you know, non-cis white male experiences in a movie, like that is amazing. That's exactly what I want. I want to be exposed to other cultures, other lifestyles, other life experiences and everything. That's great. But there's a certain contingent of art and media that takes those lifestyles, those experiences, those cultures and everything, and creates packages art specifically to cater to not even like people in that group, but people who are supportive of that group, so that they can be like, oh, this is great. I love this movie because I support these rights and everything. And it's more like, okay, yeah, but you know, the art direction could have been a little bit better. The script could have been a little tighter. They could have been a little more subtle. They could have done this, the lighting and like there's, I don't know. I feel like I'm struggling. I feel like I'm losing my mind.
No, I think I know what you're saying too. It's kind of like the filmmakers, the studios, distributors, whoever are kind of virtue signaling through their art.
Yes.
And it is a form of pandering, and it's sort of exploitative in a way. And while their intentions are good, I think it's a form of I don't know if I want to call it disrespectful, because again, I don't think it is, because again, their intentions are good, but I think it's a little bit what's the kind of fake, and kind of you can see right through it. It's obvious, right? It's not. Yeah.
It's like
it's doing it for your own benefit. Like you're also benefiting the cause, but it's a little more selfish.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's kind of, honestly, I think that I kind of feel like that in this, to bring it back to Euphoria, Sam Levinson, I think is the guy's name, who created the show.
Yeah. He writes and directs a lot of it too.
Yeah. He also did a movie that I saw in the theater that I don't really have much memory of, called Assassination Nation. That kind of felt that way. It kind of felt like, okay, this is like this is a movie about like LGBTQ characters, but it felt like it was like specifically for that audience, which is not a bad thing at all or anything, but it just felt like okay, I don't like, maybe it's not even like I don't know. I feel like I'm walking myself into a corner, but like, I feel like people who are prejudiced or complete dicks about this kind of thing, won't learn from it. And I guess that's not really the point of it. Like that's not on the creator to make something to sway other people's opinions or prejudices or anything, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with Sam Levinson, but I'm blown away by what he did with this show. I guess it's semi-autobiographical. I think when he was a teenager, he struggled with drugs and or alcohol, and had a pretty hard go of it. I haven't looked into that much. I don't know much about him, but I kind of heard that in passing. But definitely, I think everyone should watch this show, because I think it's easy on the outside to look at it as just a bunch of teenagers doing drugs and fucking each other, but it's so much more than that. Like there's a lot of sex in it and a lot of nudity, but it just it feels organic and it feels right. It makes sense. It makes sense to me. The internal conflict of all the characters is just so perfect. I mean, it's really incredible. There's also photography of it, like the whoever the DP is fucking amazing.
I've heard it's incredible in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, the lighting and everything, and just the filters. They also employ voiceovers because Zendaya's character, her name is Rue. She's like the narrator of the whole show, and she breaks the fourth wall and stuff like that. And it feels so right. It's not ham-fisted at all. It just feels like that's how this story is supposed to be told. The last two episodes it was a 2-part episode for the finale of the second season, was one of the main characters puts on a play. And so it sort of weaves the story of the show into the play, because the play is about their lives. I think the play is actually called Our Lives, maybe.
Okay.
It's put on by Maud Apatow's character.
I was going to ask, because I saw her in the credits, because like I've always thought that when she appeared in like her dad's movies and stuff, I always thought like she's going to be like someone, like I felt like she was going to be breaking out in a big way as she got older. How does she do?
She does well, and it's kind of unfortunate because her character is very much in the background.
Okay.
But she's supposed to be that way. She's one of the most stable characters on the show, which is interesting because her sister on the show is one of the wildest ones. But anyways, she puts on this play, and so again, the way that the story weaves in with the play, sometimes it's hard to tell whether or not you're watching the play or you're watching the episode. And the visuals of that are just fucking incredible. And
nice.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about this show. It's really incredible. The music is also just next level good. Nice. It's definitely. I think everyone should watch the show. I was expecting a generational or cultural divide, but it has not had that effect on me at all. Yeah.
Nice.
Highly recommend it. Really, really good show.
That's awesome. That's Euphoria, and that is on HBO Max. Nice. Do you want me to go to my next one?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is interesting because I did not know that this was available to stream on HBO Max. I got it from the library, actually. Yes, that's right, guys. I'm literate. But it is the 2021 kind of indie, kind of quarantine created movie, Language Lessons, starring Mark Duplass and Natalie Morales. Natalie Morales also directed the movie and co-wrote it with Mark Duplass. It is a kind of, it all kind of takes place over Zoom. The plot summary, it's a drama/comedy. Plot summary is a Spanish teacher and her student develop an unexpected friendship. So Language Lessons kind of starts in this, it's kind of like that mumblecore kind of thing, with like Mark Duplass and like people that he works with a lot, kind of spearheaded. Sorry, but okay. So it begins with Mark Duplass. The story is that his husband has paid for him to have, I think it's 90 Spanish lessons over Zoom. So Natalie Morales is the Spanish teacher that teaches him over Zoom, and each kind of like the movie is kind of separated into different segments that are like, oh, lesson 1, immersion, lesson 2, vocabulary, like different kind of things that are titled on there. But what's interesting about it, and I just found it really, really engaging and very smartly written and performed, is that throughout the course of the movie, you feel this bond, this just platonic friendship bond form between these two characters as they sort of slowly get into the nitty-gritty of each other's lives. And it is such an interesting, like, humanistic kind of drama that comes into play, because early on in the movie, I won't give away what it is, but early on in the movie, like, I was kind of blown away by it because because one of the lessons starts with like a reveal of something like really big that happened. And from there, the movie just kind of goes into this just dramatic, like human connection kind of thing. And as the movie goes on, like you get this like very naturalistic sense of like reservations that each of them have. Like it's just these two people that are interacting with each other. And on one hand, sometimes like the conversation gets a little too deep, or the conversation gets a little bit strays a little bit away from the teacher-student kind of relationship. But it's so refreshing because it is a friendship movie. It is about like this friendship that grows between them and how they come to realize it's not something as heavy as them needing each other per se, but it's something to the effect of them basically realizing like what they mean to each other. And it's so refreshing that I mean, like I said, it's a platonic kind of thing. There's no like, I don't know, there's no there's a certain level of sweetness that does not feel like it is dependent on any kind of manufactured drama or tension or anything. Like the tension is them trying to realize or come to terms with what they mean to each other on a friendship level. Like one of them is very much becomes more closed off as they find themselves feeling more connected with this person that lives in a completely different place and has a completely different life, that they only interact with each other through these language lessons. And I just felt like it was just an incredible drama, and it just felt very authentic and raw. And I loved it. I really did. I rated it on Letterboxd a respectable 4 stars.
Okay.
But I'll read like an excerpt of my review because I feel like I just kind of rambled that. But I particularly love the way the film explores both characters' most intense vulnerabilities and showcases how they react to the sudden bond that forms between them. There's no antagonist or contrived conflict. It's simply two people working through things together and separately and forming something deeper than the professional relationship that brought them together in the first place. And like, the power of that bond that forms is so electric. And like, to add to the fact, or to add to my love of this movie, the fact that it's a quarantine movie, like this was made during like lockdown and everything. Like the movies that I feel like that could be such a gimmick.
Yeah, right.
And like a disaster, but like this is a really, really strong, a really strong movie. Yeah. And
sounds really good. I wasn't familiar with it at all.
Yeah, it's it's called Language Lessons. It's on HBO Max and at your local library. Yeah.
Do you know, is this Natalie Morales's directorial debut?
I don't know if it's her debut because she also directed, let me check and see, but the movie, I think this may, I don't know if this came before or after that, but Plan B, that's on Hulu, which I saw like half of, and I need to go back and watch all of it. I really liked it. It's kind of not sex comedy, but it's a teen coming of age comedy, kind of in the vein of like Booksmart or Superbad. Okay, this was so Language Lessons was her directorial debut on a feature, and then Plan B was her follow-up. They both were, I think, Language Lessons I think came out and was made in 2000. And then Plan B came out in 2021. She previously directed a couple episodes of the HBO anthology show Room 104, and there's like a couple of short films and a couple episodes of TV. So yeah, okay. But I'm looking forward to more of her work. I already enjoyed her in like Parks and Rec and some TV stuff that I'd seen her in, and this just makes me very excited for her career going forward, because I think that she's got some talent behind the camera as well as in front of.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds really good.
Yeah, I recommend it. So Tiny, what do you want to bring up next? Do you want to kind of start to kind of wind down a little bit?
Yeah, I was going to say the main thing I wanted to talk about was Euphoria. So the my other entries I'll be pretty brief on.
Okay.
But the next one I was interesting to bring up because I'm not super thrilled with it is also an HBO Max series called The Gilded Age that came out.
Yeah, I know nothing about this.
Yeah, it is the latest series from Julian Fellows, who is famous for Downton Abbey on PBS. Yeah, so, Downton Abbey, which I thought was a fantastic show, had these incredible themes of kind of the dying ideas of lordship and monarchy and things like that at the beginning of the 20th century, and the whole class dynamics that go back for millennia in England. And that stuff was so well crafted on that show. And The Gilded Age tries to go for the same sort of thematic thing, I guess. It's set in New York City in the 1880s.
Okay.
Yeah, and it has this dynamic of the United States is famous for not having an aristocracy, not having a royal class, right? That's not something we've ever had. This is we live in a meritocracy, you make your own way kind of thing. But for a long time, the United States, that was true, but the sort of high class families wouldn't really accept you into society if you were, new money. If you think about, like Titanic, the Astors and the other families, the kind of aristocratic class that were on the Titanic sort of looked down on, what was her name? Molly, Kathy Bates' character.
The unsinkable Molly Brown.
Molly Brown, there you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, that it's sort of that dynamic of, like the Astor family is actually in this show.
Okay.
And there's a new family, a railroad tycoon family, that moves into upper, I don't even know I don't know my boroughs or my geography of New York very well, but in 1880s, it's the street in the neighborhood where all of those families live who are part of society.
Okay.
And the Russell family, they're some kind of railroad tycoon. They move in across the street and they're richer than everyone else, but they're not accepted into society because they're new money, or they're like the new family. And it's about that dynamic. It's not uninteresting. There's some good acting. There's some good characters, good cast, but I feel like the underlying tension is just not there.
Okay.
Downton Abbey had, they had World War I, and all of these, the Russian Revolution and all of this political upheaval that changed the world for a century, essentially. And those social underpinnings and those class ideas were shooken up, and that was a big deal in England for a long time. And it's a little hard for us to understand here in the U.S., but it just doesn't. What these characters are going through just does not feel anywhere near as significant as what happened in that show. It just feels
interesting.
Because it's essentially like Elon Musk moving next door to Jeff Bezos, and Jeff Bezos treats him like shit. Like, I don't give it. Like, this dude's a billionaire. I don't, I just couldn't get on board with it. It's not a bad show by any stretch. There's a lot of good things about it, but I think that I was so fascinated with Downton Abbey. But I was not fascinated with, and I think it's, Downton Abbey was a fictional family. The Granthams were, to my knowledge, anyways, they were fictional. And so were the two main families in this are also fictional.
Okay.
I don't know, they're not. The Astor family is in the show, and there's some other famous family names in the show, but they're kind of background characters almost. So, I don't. That's not the issue. I'm not saying it lacks. I don't think authenticity is the issue. I think it's just not as interesting of a dynamic, frankly. I mean,
interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, it did get approved for a second season.
Yeah, I see that. Did you watch the entirety of the first season?
Yeah, we watched the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's I wish I was more enthusiastic about it, because and it's historical, and I really enjoy history, but I don't know, for whatever reason I just could not. The conflict was just so unearned to me, because it's just not that interesting that this billionaire is upset because he and his wife can't be accepted by the other billionaires. Like, it's just like, I don't. Pick your battles, man.
Yeah. Like, I don't care. I've got a mortgage. Like,
right. The concept was done so much better in. I read the Alexander Hamilton book. That the Hamilton musical is based on. Alexander Hamilton kind of suffered through that, where he wasn't really accepted as a gentleman in society, and he was always an outsider because he didn't come from he was from ill breeding, he was a bastard or whatever, and it was so much more interesting in that book, and there's some of that's in the play as well. But it felt good. It worked well in that book and play, but for whatever reason the concept is just not really landing all that well in the Gilded Age. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. I mean, I think it's worth a watch if someone's, if any of our listeners were fans of Downton Abbey, go for it. But yeah, I'm not super thrilled with it. We'll keep watching it. My wife liked it, so yeah, it's okay.
Interesting. Yeah, you're not really selling it all that well, and I never watched Downton Abbey. It felt just very dry to me. But yeah, I will say that, to your point about Alexander Hamilton, he was a bastard or orphan son of a whore and a Scotsman who was dropped in the middle of a forgotten spot in the Caribbean by providence, poverty, and squalor. But how did he grow up to be a hero and a scholar? I had to Google the lyrics to that. I'm so sorry. Anyway,
yeah.
My apologies to the Hamilton estate. But but yeah, no, yeah, it just seemed like that whole thing just seems very not my speed, really.
Yeah, that's fair.
Kind of on a similar note, I haven't seen this, and I don't know if you have or not, but it's gotten like a lot of acclaim. But have you watched the show Succession?
No, but I've heard it's good.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard incredible things. So yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look into that. So yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want me to do one more and then you do one more and then we can call it a night? If we would do like rapid fire, maybe? Okay.
Yeah, that works.
Because I will say, spoiler, there's one that I hope you bring up next because I'm very curious to talk to you about it. But I was going to talk about Memory, the new Liam Neeson movie, but I just posted a review today on obsessiveviewer.com. You can read it. It's not that the movie is not that good. It's just, it's like, pardon the pun, but the movie Memory is forgettable. It's just, it's
nice.
It's not even like terrible. It's just, yeah, it's just lame.
Yeah.
But what I will bring up, that I don't believe we've talked about on the podcast, I think I did Patreon immediate reaction. I don't actually know if I ever posted that one. But anyway, it is The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I enjoyed this movie more than I think some of my colleagues in the IFGA did. It's Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal. In this action-packed comedy, Nicolas Cage plays Nick Cage, channeling his iconic characters as he's caught between a superfan and a CIA agent. Like I said, it's got Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal and Tiffany Haddish. It's also got Neil Patrick Harris and, oh my God, why am I blanking on his name? Ike Barinholtz. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this movie. It's very much in that vein of like kind of meta comedy, self-referential kind of comedy, and it's playing up all the different kind of facades and personas of Nicolas Cage, but it does it with this reverence toward him and this respect that I feel like is a good balancing act for the movie, because it is very, I think one of the points of contention that some of my friends in the IFJ had was that it's very much, it kind of feels in parts like a cookie cutter, like studio comedy. And I get that. Like, I agree with that wholeheartedly. My perspective on that is that I kind of like cookie cutter studio comedies, honestly. And having like the meta aspect of Nicolas Cage playing Nicolas Cage, who he's playing himself as someone who is struggling to get parts. And he basically takes this gig to perform at a millionaire or billionaire's birthday party because he's a big fan of Nicolas Cage. So it's a very fun like buddy comedy thing, and it does have those like earmarks of like studio comedies that every R-rated studio comedy has to have a drug trip scene. That's a big point of contention for me because it's in every freaking one of these things. But I mean, it kind of works pretty well in this one because like it has that scene. But like part of it is they're working on they're workshopping how they would make a movie together. It's a lot of fun. I don't know. I had fun with it. I won't say much more about it because I saw it a while ago and I don't really remember much about it, but it was pretty fun. It was enjoyable. Yeah, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. It delivered what I expected it to, and that's the best thing I can say about it.
Nice. I'm definitely intrigued by it. I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you remember this. This is a bit of a deep pull.
Okay.
Probably this was around the time that Bangkok Dangerous was coming out, the Nick Cage movie.
Okay.
This was like 2008, 2009-ish, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
A mutual friend of ours who was in our brother's class, also named Matt.
Okay.
He, at the time, I don't know if he still is, at the time, he was a huge Nicolas Cage fan. It was his favorite actor.
Okay.
And he had the idea for a movie called Caged, where like two super fans of Nick Cage like have this crazy ass idea to like kidnap him and make a movie with him. And they're fucking nuts, and they go through with it and they end up kidnapping him, but it turns out that Nick Cage is even crazier than they are and like is super, super into the idea of making a movie with him, and then they actually do it. And like I remember him, like I think we were getting drinks somewhere and he was telling us about it. I was like, that sounds fucking amazing. I would watch the shit out of that movie.
Was I there when we
I am almost 100% sure you were there. Because I think you and I were talking about movies and he brought up Bangkok Dangerous, and we were like, what? That movie looks dumb as shit. And he was like, dude, Nicolas Cage is the best thing ever. And he went into this diatribe, and I was like, that is fucking brilliant. I want to see that movie. Yeah.
I'm trying, okay, to protect our sources, what's the last initial of his name? Because I'm thinking
His last name rhymes with a popular chip manufacturer.
Yes. I'm right there with you. I was thinking of two completely different Matts, a W and an L.
Okay. No, neither of those. No, not those guys. No.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I don't remember that at all.
Oh man, I will never forget that because I was like, dude, that movie sounds so damn good. I want to see that. That
does sound good. There's a little bit of that type of thing in this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah. Wow.
as soon as I saw the trailer for Massive Talent, I was like gonna message Matt and be like, dude, did you like slip your script to somebody? Because
right. Wow.
Yeah.
Good job. Good job. If he was involved with it, good job, Matt.
Yeah. Kudos to him.
Efrito.
Nice. Oh man, that's cool though. I do want to see the movie. I think it looks funny.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. It's pretty fun. Yeah,
I bet I will. Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
It was good. Okay, do you want to round us out with your final extended potpourri segment, Tiny?
Yeah, again, this will be brief. I don't have a ton to say about it. Just a few thoughts, but I watched The Adam Project on Netflix.
I was hoping you were going to say the other thing. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, okay.
It's okay.
So the only thing I want to mention about it is that I was shocked how much heart this movie had.
Yeah.
I was expecting it to be another like whatever the hell that damn movie was with Ryan Reynolds and The Rock and Gal Gadot. What was that called? Red Notice.
Oh, Red Notice.
That was.
I never saw it. I heard terrible
one of
things.
them. It was awful. It was one of the most forgetful movies I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
I think it was also directed by Sean Levy. I think
I don't
Netflix and
think so, because Sean Levy did
Free Guy.
Free Guy, yep. And
Free
he's
Guy's
doing
what
the
I'm
next
thinking
Deadpool.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Anyways, maybe it's Ryan Reynolds has some kind of deal going with Netflix or something like that, because he's done a handful of movies. Anyways, I wasn't expecting hardly anything from the Adam Project, so maybe that's why it kind of surprised me. But the word that comes to mind is this movie just had a ton of heart. It's a pretty thematically, it's a relatively standard movie, you know, kind of father-son drama and sort of Arrested Development from a grown man. But it has this fun time travel aspect to it that made it gave it kind of some uniqueness. But ultimately, I was just really impressed and touched by the heart of the movie, mostly from the actor Walker Scobell, who plays the young Ryan Reynolds. He was channeling Ryan Reynolds without doing a ridiculous impression,
right?
Which is tough to do. He's probably 12 years old or something, 13 in this movie. Really impressive for someone his age. I was really impressed with that, and just his back and forth with Ryan Reynolds was so fun. The movie has plenty of issues. The villain's kind of shoehorned in. Mark Ruffalo's character is sort of tacked on in a way as well. Could have used a little more development. It's not a perfect movie. It's got plenty of issues, but I was just mainly impressed and impressed with and touched by the heart of the movie between kind of the two main characters. It was really fun, and just I had a great time with it.
Nice. I watched the Adam Project back in March when it came out. I actually wrote a review on the website, obsessiveviewer.com. And I rated it 3 stars. I thought it was fine. Yeah.
I thought it was fun.
Yeah. I saw some, I can't remember. Maybe it was, I don't know, a friend of mine, I think, maybe put it in his review that, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something to the effect of like, oh, okay, well, now we have 2 smart-ass Ryan Reynolds in a movie. And like, I felt like they handled that very well, but I can see how that can be very overbearing for some people who maybe don't really connect with his kind of wry, sarcastic wit kind of persona.
That's fair. Yeah. Real quick, speaking of Netflix, are you at all interested? I don't think you've watched it. Are you at all interested in the Bridgerton series?
No, I keep hearing about it, and honestly, in my head, it kind of seems kind of like it seems similar to like Downton Abbey, just not my cup of tea, not my kind of thing, which could be prejudice of me, but I don't know. Have you watched it or?
I've watched all of it.
Wow.
I was going to bring it up, but I kind of forgot about it, or we finished it. We watched the whole fucking second season in a weekend, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
were those people with it. It's a very binge worthy show. It's just it's. I'm trying to put my finger on it. I think why people like it, why I like it, is I don't care how it makes me sound. I'm a sucker for a good love story.
Yeah.
And it's got multiple really good love stories, just plain and simple. I mean, they're
Nice.
very incredibly dramatic. They're not particularly surprising. They're not original. I mean, it tends to be a little kind of like Harlequin-y, Fabio on the cover of a paperback novel kind of stuff. But the acting's really good. The writing's really good. And there's just some good character work in there. And it's just kind of a clever show, but it's also, it's a little sappy and kind of, I don't know how I want to explain it, but sort of like a Harlequin novel kind of thing at times. And that can be off-putting to, especially men, but just anyone in general. And it is a straight up it's about royal families, fictitious royal families in England who are trying to get all their kids, just basically setting people up to get married. That's the whole show. I mean, that's the whole show, which the premise is fucking stupid. I'm sorry, but it's like, I should not care. Like I should not care because it's just dumb. It's like, oh, this character, she's coming out this season and like it's wedding season and we're going to get all these people together and courtship. And it's like, this is fucking dumb. It really is dumb, but it's also pretty fascinating and it's just kind of fun. It's a fun show. I'm sure almost every criticism of it that's out there is probably pretty valid.
Sure. Well, I know it's getting a lot of hype. Like people love it.
Most watched show on Netflix.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean it's and I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know that you would like it. I was just curious if you had watched any of it, but I genuinely enjoy it. I did not watch. So the first season came out and Paige was watching it and she was obsessed, and I was like, "Are you really? You're obsessed with this?" And then she's like, "I think you'd like it," and I was like, "Whatever." And an episode or two, and I was like, okay, I want to keep watching this. I'm actually really into this. Here we are 2 years later, and it's I genuinely enjoy the show.
Nice. Maybe. I don't know. My thing is that I am just bombarded with a lot of stuff that I want to watch and everything.
Yeah.
And like I want to do more Patreon recordings and stuff. I finally finished my Foundation season 1 episode reviews on Patreon.
Nice.
And like that was fine. I enjoyed the show and everything. And then like now I'm thinking like, okay, I need to do Chapel Wait, and then I'm free to do whatever I want. And I want to do the Marvel shows next. And I like after now that I finished Foundation, I have wanted to do like maybe I can do like a sci-fi like space show again, like the kind of, And then I was like, well, Halo is playing right now. Halo is on Paramount Plus, which I'm going to ask you if you've watched any of it. I know Ben said that it was good. My friend Evan hates the show.
Okay.
Me coming to it, like I haven't watched it or anything, but I love Pablo Schreiber. But I also don't care about the Halo lore at all. Like back when I was playing the games, I was like, this felt like such a hollow, a hollow story that like I don't care about. Like I'm not like I don't care about it at all. So have you watched any of it?
I'm very intrigued by it, but I have not watched any of it.
Okay.
I don't think we have our Paramount subscription anymore, so
gotcha.
That's I'd probably be watching if it weren't for that, but
okay.
I plan to watch it eventually. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I may be sending you some information with which you could use to sign in to Paramount Plus. Yeah,
sweet.
If I can dig up my password. But anyway, but yeah, I don't know. Should I do episode reviews on Patreon for that?
I mean, if you're looking for something to do.
Yeah. Would you listen to them?
Yeah, give them a shot.
Okay, I might do that then. Okay. Well, stay tuned for that on Patreon, patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Do we want to wrap up this episode, Tiny?
Yeah, that's all I got for Potpourri.
Awesome. Same here. So you can find more of our stuff at obsessiveviewer.com. Follow us on Letterboxd. Since we didn't say this at the top, follow me on Twitter at obsessiveviewer. Follow Tiny. Where can people find you online, Tiny?
The best place to find me is Letterboxd at ObsessiveTiny.
Yes, and I am at ObsessiveViewer on Letterboxd and on Twitter. And check out the Facebook pages for all of our stuff. Obsessive Viewer, Facebook.com/ObsessiveViewer, and Facebook.com/Tower Junkies Pod, and Anthology is out there. So anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back next time with something, I don't know, but thank you, Tiny, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. And now, here's a short clip from our Patreon exclusive RSS feed. To hear the full clip and more exclusive Patreon content, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and become a patron at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Thank you and enjoy. Dating back to February 2013. So in the lifespan of obsessiveviewer.com up to this point, I have watched 2001: A Space Odyssey 5 times, which is pretty low in terms of amount of times.
Okay.
So I saw it once in 2013, once in 2016, twice in 2018, or 3 times in 2018. And I haven't watched it since. Wow, I need to. But here's the thing. Those 5 times, every single time has been in a movie theater.
Wow.
Yeah. Like in 2013, I saw it at the Toby at IMA, or Newfields now.
Yeah.
And then in 2016 is when we saw it in 70 millimeter at the State Museum IMAX, which I believe was put on by Indie Film Fest.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2018 was when they did the 50th anniversary 50th anniversary like IMAX thing. That honestly might have been Christopher Nolan's like restored version.
This podcast was edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. You can find links to all of our shows at ObsessiveViewer.com/podcasts. For exclusive bonus content, including reviews, commentaries, and B-roll episodes, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.